What's up, guys? Justin here, PrimeDriven.com with the winner of PDG 35. Why don't you tell everyone your name, where you're from, and what you bought to get entered?
My name is Jeff Hargis. I'm from Lexington, Kentucky, and I bought this. I don't know if you can see this shirt from. It says "Drive Toyota," and that's what I bought to win the car.
Awesome. And how did you find out about our giveaway?
Well, I've been following you for years. I got my first MR2 back in 2006, and I followed you back on the old MR2 OC Owners Club site. And
yeah, the old forums.
Yeah, the forum. Yeah.
Pre-Facebook.
Yes, pre-Facebook. Yes.
Wow. So way back then, and then you first started. I believe you've been entering the car giveaways since 17.
Since the first one.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. So persistence pays off, right?
Yes.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What do you do for a living?
I work at a Toyota factory in Georgetown, just outside of Lexington. So I keep my eye on the Toyotas.
Wow, isn't that coincidental?
Yeah, I've been there 28 years, so I'll retire in 2 years.
Wow, 28 years.
Yeah,
that's longer than most of our customers have been alive.
Yeah, that's right. I said I'd probably win the prize for being the oldest winner.
You might be. I think you might have it. I think you might have the title. So why don't we do like a brief car history highlight reel? What have you had, that was fun? Who got you into cars originally?
Okay. My first car that I had to learn to drive on was a 1949 Chevy pickup, and you could see the ground going by through the rust in the floorboards, and it got about 50 miles a gallon, but that was oil, not gas. and so it was fun, but it just barely got me where I was going. But the first car I ever bought for myself was 83 Celica GTS. And so that's what got me started on Toyotas before I started working at Toyota.
Wow. Okay. So you went straight from old American truck to 80s Toyota.
Yeah. Yeah. And so since then, of course, working at Toyota, they give us a discount to buy cars. And so when my son was 16, he wanted a car. So I bought him an MR2 that I found on eBay. And so I flew out to New Jersey, Camden, New Jersey, and picked the car up and drove it home. And so he drove that through high school and college. And then I kind of got buying parts cars to help fix it up and stuff. And so I ended up buying several more and parting them out. And then I found an 85 that I really liked and kept it. And so I still have the 87, which is my son's car. And then the 85 I still have. And then we also bought a 86 Corolla hatchback. And so I'm working on all those, trying to get them back in shape again. And then we've got a house full of MR2 or Toyota products. My wife has a Prius. I've got another Corolla hatchback, and we've got a Sienna, and my daughter has a Corolla, and my son has a Starlet Glanza V.
Wow. That's not one you see very often these days.
Oh no! Well, he lives in Tokyo. And
okay.
He drives it over there.
That's cool. That's cool. What's he do in Tokyo?
Actually, he works for an auto importer, a company called, Coastal Custom Auto Imports. And so he is a buyer and sits online and watches car auctions all day long and buys cars and does customer relations and stuff like that.
Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah, we've bought a number of cars, directly from the auctions, in Japan. Over the years, some of the cars are just harder to get in the States now, or they're just before COVID, they were much cheaper to buy in the Japan auctions.
Yeah.
Now, not as much.
Yeah. That's what he was saying, that the cars just in the last few years are really skyrocketed price wise.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. Wow, that's cool. So, an entire Toyota household.
Yep.
The origin story of the MR2s was your son's first car and your
Right.
second interesting car,
Right.
and you still have them. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're definitely the title winner for that category. Awesome, awesome. So, what was it? Was there anything particular? Obviously, since you've been around since the beginning, and even before that, was there anything particular about this MR2 that you liked? Obviously, we've given away many of them at this point,
Right.
and I know you participated in probably almost all of those, if not all of those.
Yeah.
Was there anything about this one, or you were just like, yes, another SW20 I want?
Yeah. I always entered the MR2 ones, and I had a question. I really wasn't going to enter this one because I didn't know if I could get used to driving a right-hand drive car. And then at the last minute, I thought, yeah, it's an MR2. I'm going to enter. And so at the last minute, just like the last day of the thing, I entered, bought this shirt.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, I know a lot of people will ask me about that. The hardest thing about driving right-hand drive cars is you're always on the wrong part of the road initially
Right.
because your brain says I'm sitting on the left side of the car.
Yeah.
So the left side of my vision should be basically almost looking right at the yellow line. When
Right.
you're right-hand drive car, that puts you in the other lane.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like it basically just changing from the yellow line as your focal point to the shoulder line as your focal point will keep
Yeah.
you out of the middle of the road.
Yeah.
But otherwise, like driving, like shifting with your left hand, like that takes 2 seconds to get used to. Like anyone who's driven manual cars before, like that's probably the easiest thing to get used to.
Yeah.
The next thing that everyone does on an SW20 is the blinker and the wiper are on the
Yeah.
opposite side.
Yeah. That's what my
So
son said the hardest thing was to
yes,
learn.
yeah. So you could always tell a guy that just started driving Japanese cars because every time he's supposed to have his blinker on, his wipers go
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's it. Like the actual driving of it is, like it's just a car. The some of the faces you get when you come up to stoplights, drive-throughs are obviously different. And you can't get the ATM in a drive-through unless you
Right.
go through backwards.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's much easier on the whole than people think.
Yeah.
It's just like the first time you do it, everything is wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
One person asked me one time, he's like, "Are the pedals in a different arrangement?" I'm like, "No, that would cause too many accidents. The pedals they leave alone."
Yeah, that's what I thought about, flying out and driving it home. And then the more I thought about that, well, the first experience of driving the right-hand drive car, I don't think I want to be driving that far.
Yes. Oh, and also we stopped letting people drive the car. I mean, even before COVID, we stopped letting people drive cars home, especially if they were older cars, which obviously almost all of ours are,
Right.
because if something happens, and back in the day when we used to build customer cars, this did happen 3 times, and that's why I implemented the rule, is
Yeah.
that if anything stops working on your drive home, there's no part you can get at a parts store. So
Right.
like something as fundamentally simple as like your battery dies,
Yeah.
like even getting the right size battery is not necessarily a given. And you think like it's a battery, right? Like it's the most generic part. Like,
Right.
yeah, it's the closest, but like you get a flat tire on an MR2, MR2 tire sizes don't exist at tire stores.
Yeah.
You're going on a tire rack. You have an alternator die, that alternator doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You got to get a remanufactured one from Rock Auto. So it's like those, and like you pop a relay, like those relays don't exist anymore.
Right.
You need like one of like the OG like MR2 parts guys, and even they most of the time like don't have them anymore because we've been using them up for 30 years. But so that's the thing, and early on when we were building cars, one guy had a fuel pump relay go halfway down to North Carolina,
Yeah.
and it had to flatbed it the entire rest of the way, and you don't even want to know what that flatbed build was because it's not car carrier costs, which is scheduled and planned. That's just a flatbed, right? Like, hey, I need a tow. Oh, where are you going? North Carolina. Great. Where are you now? Maryland. They're like, oh, well, that's gonna be like $1 million.
Yeah, that's what
And
winners.
that happened to one guy. Another guy was coming up to get his car swapped by us, and he got T-boned in an intersection.
Oh no.
They totaled his car. He was fine,
Yeah.
but they totaled his car.
Okay.
So I was like, these are just variables we don't need. And the other guy got a flat tire.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, how bad could it be? It's just a flat tire. And obviously, like our spare tires are typically non-functional anymore. They're so
Right.
old. They're like flat. They're dry rotted. Yeah.
Right.
The car is sketchy to drive on them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's why we always do it. It's just so much easier, and ultimately ends up being cheaper every single time.
Yeah. I was amazed at the pricing on the car carrier that you suggested. That
Yeah.
I thought was very reasonable.
Yeah, PJ has shipped every single one of our cars going back a decade from when we were just building and repairing customer cars. So over 500 cars between giveaways and built cars.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and it used to be even a little bit cheaper because before COVID, the volume was pretty predictable.
Yeah.
And he was like, I was like, why are the prices like 20% more now? And he's like, it's simple supply and demand. We literally have 10 times the amount of cars trying to be transported. After like the first 6 months of COVID, you had all that backlog. So once everything like kind of started up again, and the car carriers never stopped, but like their volume went way down briefly, and then it went through the roof.
Yeah.
And then everyone started buying used cars, right? Because they couldn't get new cars.
Right.
And that just made it worse, right? And then the cars got more valuable, and that just made it worse.
Well, plus
But
the price
even
of
still,
gas.
yeah. But even still, like just a flight and one, like one fill up, one stop off for food, like there's almost nowhere in the country, obviously within maybe like a 3 or 4 hour radius. Like, yeah, sure, you could definitely do that drive, but we still don't let people do it just for the fact that if something happens,
Yeah.
like on the road, you're hosed.
Yeah.
And so it's as much for the winner's safety and ease of the process being easy, and lack of friction, and then it's also easier for us because then we don't have all those variables also that ultimately fall to us to try to help fix, right?
Right.
And some of them just aren't fixable. Like, do you guys have any of those fuel pump relays? Not in the last 10 years. We used to have a box of them. All right, so I'll let you get going. Before we go, is there anything you'd like to say to the other PrimeDriven fans?
Well, keep entering. Eventually something could happen.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, thanks again. Congratulations again. And I know we're after Christmas now, but Merry belated Christmas and Happy New Year.
Okay, you too. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff.